We begin tonight with breaking news on two big stories we're following.
That's right. New developments tonight in both the Boston terror attack and the poison-laced letters sent to some government officials. Now, more suspicious letters containing what is believed to be ricin discovered in our area today. One of them addressed to President Obama.
Now, the FBI has just postponed a scheduled news conference. People are now being led back into a federal courthouse in Boston after a bomb threat there. Authorities say that they've made significant progress in the terror attack investigation, but they have not said exactly what that progress is or what that means. So as we wait to hear the latest word from the FBI, let's go now to Steve Shanavy. He's in our newsroom. He's got the latest on what's happening in Boston. Steve.
Yeah, Leon, it's pretty interesting that the FBI news conference that had been scheduled for 1 o'clock today was pushed back to 5 o'clock after word leaked out about a possible arrest. Now, that was never confirmed, and now, within the last few minutes, as you mentioned, the news conference scheduled for 5 p.m. will be delayed indefinitely. It all plays into the thinking that the FBI does have new information, which may or may not be word of an arrest or a suspect, but for some reason, the FBI is still holding on to that information before releasing it. Now, in addition to word of a possible arrest, there was also suspicious activity at a hospital, and there was a bomb threat at the federal courthouse, and that was all in Boston. Here in Washington, several cabinet members opened up and talked about the bombing and the investigation during congressional hearings on Capitol Hill. While law enforcement was focusing on the investigation, some good news from Boston hospitals, including Boston Medical Center, where many of the injured are doing better today.
Initially we had, 10 or 11 that we considered critical. Now we only have 2.
One of them, a 5-year-old boy, the other, a man in his 60s. Here in Washington, at a Senate hearing this morning, Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano would not talk about a pending arrest, but did say,
"There is no current indication to suggest the attack was indicative of a broader plot."
While Secretary of State and longtime Massachusetts Senator John Kerry, in a separate hearing, became emotional, his voice quivering while discussing his personal connection to one of the bombing victims.
The granddaughter of a very, very close supporter and friend of mine through all of my political career is fighting to keep both of her legs. Boston is not going to be intimidated by this, but we're going to find out who did this.
And again, we expect to hear more from the FBI soon. We did hear a brief statement from the president earlier today. The president and the first lady will go to Boston in the morning to show support for the people of Boston and for an interfaith prayer service for the victims of the attack. That will be at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Allison.
Okay, Steve, thank you. Now, the next big marathon will take place Sunday, and this is in London. Event officials say there will be security reviews every hour leading up to the race. Still, some runners say they are apprehensive about participating. Runners will be wearing black ribbons in honor of the Boston bombing victims. At this time in Europe and all around the world, actually, the terror threat levels do remain unchanged. We'll continue to follow the latest from Boston tonight, and then coming up at 5:30, what will be the new normal in cities across the country, including here in D.C. after this recent terror attack? Candace Gibson will be here with that part of the story. Leon.